I pushed the door open. I found our boat was drifting over a submerged city. I looked around in horror. Only a few tall buildings emerged above the waterline, with everything else swallowed by the deep. The boat eased up to a stretch of land not far off. As we made our way down the street, we spotted a notice plastered to a road sign. Liverpool has been abandoned. I pulled out my detector and ran a reading. The air quality was barely passable, but prolonged exposure to this level of radiation would do serious damage to the body. We needed to find a bunker or a shelter. That's when several figures appeared up ahead. I immediately gathered my family and followed. We hadn't gone far before the sight in front of us stopped us cold. A massive crowd of refugees had gathered here, their skin visibly altered from long-term radiation exposure. Not far ahead stood a towering barrier wall, with armed soldiers on the other side in full combat readiness. An officer standing at the top of the wall called out, "Only senior officials with valid passes are permitted entry." Anna quickly dug out her token and held it up. Just as everyone let out a breath of relief, my friend's token was gone. He rushed to the wall and started shouting his name and rank at the top of his lungs. The crowd grew restless, so the soldiers forced the entrance shut on the spot, and our group didn't make it inside. Then the sky changed color in the distance. An enormous radiation storm was tearing toward us at terrifying speed. I grabbed my wife and child and ran. A car came rolling up ahead. I sprinted straight into its path and flagged it down, begging the driver to take us to London. He wanted my watch in return. I took off my watch and handed it to him without hesitation. The car sped off in the direction of London. We were more than halfway there when the driver pulled over to the side of the road and told everyone they could get out and stretch their legs. I stepped out with my wife and child, but I'd barely been outside a few seconds. A strange sound cracked through the sky, and instinctively, I pressed my hand flat against the ground. My experience told me this wasn't a radiation storm. Sure enough, countless fireballs were screaming straight toward us in the sky. We threw ourselves behind a large tree and held each other tight. The temperature of the air spiked in an instant. Burning chunks of rock rained down like meteors, each impact throwing up massive bursts of fire and dust. By some miracle, everyone came through without serious injury. Once everything finally went quiet, we scavenged through the wreckage for anything still usable and pressed on toward London. We soon arrived at Anna's mother's home. Her place was reasonably well protected. She and a small group of people managed to maintain basic living order. While Anna was resting, she suddenly heard violent coughing coming from the bathroom. She found blood in the sink. When she turned and looked at me, I knew I couldn't hide it anymore. Back during a medical check, the doctor had told me that once I started coughing up blood, I had 6 to 8 weeks left. Going in and out of the bunker so many times had probably sped things up. Anna stood completely still. She couldn't accept that her beloved only had 2 months left to live. I held her close and said we couldn't stay here. I must cherish the remaining time and find a place where you and the kids can actually live. The next morning we said goodbye to her mother. She pressed a handgun into my hands and told me to look after her daughter and the children. And just like that, we were back on the road. We drove for a long time through endless mountain roads until we came around a bend and found a long line of vehicles sitting completely still. I got out to check. A massive crack split the earth directly in front of us. The ground had torn itself apart, cutting the road completely in two. The only way across was a crude rope ladder strung over the edge of the cliff.